Loftus Hall is one of Ireland's most infamous haunted locations, a place where history and legend have become so intertwined that separating truth from folklore is nearly impossible. Perched on the windswept Hook Peninsula in County Wexford, the mansion overlooks the turbulent waters of the Celtic Sea. For centuries, locals have whispered that a visitor from the depths of hell once crossed its threshold, forever cursing the house and the family who lived within it. What follows is a horror story rooted in real history, local folklore, and the legends that transformed Loftus Hall into Ireland's most feared mansion. The Devil's Visit to Loftus Hall. Long before Loftus Hall earned its sinister reputation, the land was occupied by a fortified manor known as Redmond Hall. During the medieval period, the powerful Redmond family controlled the peninsula. Their home stood isolated against the relentless Atlantic winds, surrounded by jagged cliffs and dark seas. The location itself seemed designed for ghost stories. Storms frequently battered the coastline. Dense fog rolled in without warning. Shipwrecks were common, and sailors often spoke of strange lights dancing across the water at night. In the 17th century, ownership eventually passed to the Loftus family, whose name would forever become attached to the estate. Yet it was not history that made Loftus Hall famous. It was a visitor. A visitor who arrived during a storm. A visitor who may never have been human. The storm. According to local legend, sometime during the 18th century, a violent storm erupted over Hook Head. Thunder shook the coastline. Rain lashed against the windows. The sea became a black wall of chaos. Inside the mansion, the Tottenham family, relatives of the Loftus family, waited out the storm with their young daughter, Anne Tottenham. Anne was said to be beautiful, intelligent, and kind. She spent much of her time gazing across the sea from the mansion's windows, dreaming of distant lands beyond Ireland. As darkness fell, servants noticed a ship struggling offshore. The vessel appeared from the fog like a ghost. Moments later, a small boat detached from the ship and headed toward shore. A lone stranger emerged. The mysterious guest. The man who arrived at the mansion was handsome and charming. He wore expensive clothing unlike anything the family had seen before. His speech was refined. His manners were flawless. Because of the terrible weather, the family offered him shelter until the storm passed. The stranger gladly accepted. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. The guest never seemed eager to leave. Yet nobody questioned him. Everyone found themselves strangely captivated by his presence. Everyone except a few servants. Some whispered that his eyes seemed unnatural. Others claimed his smile felt wrong. Several servants reported hearing footsteps echoing through hallways long after everyone had gone to bed. Some claimed they saw shadows following him. But whenever they tried to tell others, they found themselves unable to explain exactly what they had seen. The stranger always appeared normal again. And falls in love. And Tottenham soon became fascinated by the mysterious visitor. He entertained her with stories of distant countries. He spoke of places no one had ever heard of. He knew secrets about people he had never met. He seemed to possess knowledge beyond any ordinary traveler. As the months passed, Anne and the stranger grew closer. The family believed a romance was blossoming. Perhaps a wedding would soon follow. Perhaps this mysterious gentleman would become part of the family. Yet strange incidents continued. Doors opened by themselves. Candles extinguished without warning. Servants reported hearing whispers coming from empty rooms. Animals became agitated whenever the visitor approached. Dogs growled. Horses refused to come near him. Birds scattered into the sky. Still, nobody dared confront him. The card game. One evening, the family gathered around a table to play cards. Outside, another storm raged across the peninsula. Rain hammered against the windows. Lightning illuminated the sea. The game continued peacefully until Anne accidentally dropped a card. As she bent down to retrieve it, she glanced beneath the table. What she saw froze her blood. The handsome stranger did not have human feet. Instead, he possessed a cloven hoof. A black hoof like that of a goat. For a moment, Anne could not breathe. The room seemed to spin. She looked again. The hoof was still there. The realization struck her with overwhelming terror. The guest was not a man. He was the devil. The revelation. Anne screamed. The card game stopped instantly. Everyone stared at her. She pointed toward the stranger. Before anyone could react, lightning exploded outside. The room shook. The stranger rose from his chair. His pleasant expression vanished. Witnesses claimed his eyes glowed with unnatural fire. His face twisted into something monstrous. Then came the event that would become the most famous part of the legend. The ceiling above him reportedly burst open in a deafening explosion. A column of flame shot upward. The stranger ascended through the roof and disappeared into the storm. The smell of sulfur filled the room. When the family finally gathered their courage, the visitor was gone. Only a massive hole remained in the ceiling. The devil had departed. Or so the legend claims. Anne's fate. The encounter shattered Anne's mind. Following the stranger's disappearance, she reportedly fell into a state of terror and despair. She refused to leave the room. She rarely spoke. Servants claimed she spent hours staring toward the sea, waiting for something that never returned. As months passed, her condition worsened. Family members became increasingly concerned. Eventually, they confined her to a room within the mansion. There she remained for years. Visitors reportedly found her sitting motionless near a window. Her knees drawn tightly against her chest. Her eyes fixed on the horizon. Waiting. Always waiting. According to the legend, Anne died in this position. Unable to straighten her body due to years spent curled in fear. The room where she lived became known as one of the most haunted areas of the mansion. Strange events after her death. Anne's death did not end the stories. In many ways, it marked the beginning. Servants reported hearing footsteps along empty corridors. Doors slammed without explanation. Guests awoke to find figures standing beside their beds. Children claimed to see a woman staring from upper windows. Some visitors described sudden feelings of overwhelming sadness. Others experienced intense fear for no apparent reason. Several reported hearing a woman crying late at night. The sound appeared to come from Anne's former room. Whenever someone investigated, the crying stopped. The real history behind the legend. While the devil story is folklore, Anne Tottenham was a real person. Historical records show she lived at Loftus Hall during the 18th century. She suffered from severe mental illness and died at a relatively young age. Researchers believe much of the legend may have evolved as an attempt to explain her tragic condition. In earlier centuries, mental illness was poorly understood. Communities often attributed unusual behavior to supernatural forces. The tale of a devilish visitor may have emerged over generations as locals searched for an explanation. Yet the legend persisted. And with every retelling, it grew darker. The most haunted house in Ireland. By the 19th and 20th centuries, Loftus Hall had become synonymous with ghosts. Visitors arrived hoping to experience paranormal activity. Many claimed they did. Reports included shadow figures moving through hallways, mysterious voices, sudden temperature drops, apparitions of women in old-fashioned clothing, unexplained knocking sounds, feelings of being watched. Paranormal investigators frequently ranked Loftus Hall among the most haunted buildings in Ireland. Some refused to spend the night inside. Others left convinced that something remained within the mansion. Whether ghost, memory, or imagination, the stories never disappeared. The empty mansion. As years passed, Loftus Hall gradually fell into decline. The once grand mansion became increasingly isolated. Wind howled through aging corridors. Paint peeled from walls. Dust gathered in abandoned rooms. The building itself began to resemble a haunted house from a nightmare. Photographs of its empty hallways spread across the internet. Visitors described an atmosphere unlike any other historic building. Even skeptics admitted the place felt unsettling. Not because of ghosts, but because of the overwhelming sense of tragedy. A mansion filled with centuries of sorrow, loss, and unanswered questions. The horror that remains. Today, nobody can prove that the devil ever visited Loftus Hall. No evidence exists of a supernatural card game. No record confirms a hoof beneath the table. Yet the story refuses to die. Perhaps because every great haunted location needs a legend. Or perhaps because some places absorb the fears of generations. Standing before Loftus Hall on a stormy night, with the sea crashing against the cliffs below and darkness stretching across the Irish coast, it becomes easy to understand why the tale survived for centuries. The wind whispers through broken stone. The shadows seem to move. And somewhere in the depths of imagination, one question remains. What if Anne Tottenham really did see something beneath that table? Something that was never meant to walk among the living. Something that arrived during a storm. And never truly left.